Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. And today I wanted to talk about mostly the cons of living in San Francisco. And this is more for people who are considering family, you already have kids. And right now I am 26 weeks pregnant. So I'm thinking a lot more about this. And my husband and I may decide to leave San Francisco just due to all these things. So the list is about 6 things long, and then I'll go into some of the positives of why San Francisco is nice. So the first con of moving to San Francisco, especially if you have a family, I would say is a public school situation. You can Google what happened especially during the pandemic, what happened with the public school. They basically remained closed for the longest time while the private school kids were back to school with all the safety precautions, getting their learning on, while the public school kids were still kind of at home doing virtual learning. And if you know kids, in person works the best, and just staring at a computer screen definitely puts them a little bit behind. And it's still, I'm making this video September 2022. The public school situation is still not, uh, how do you say, stable. They're still looking at people for the school board. They voted some of them off. So that it doesn't feel, I don't have much confidence. And also, I was a tutor. I was a free tutor at the library for the kids. And I just tutored so many kids where they didn't know how to read up until the fifth grade. So that was super alarming to me because one of the things that came into my head is, how did you pass any of the grades and then make it to fifth grade not knowing how to read? It's nothing about the child. It could be, other reasons, but the school system, it's definitely a reflection of the school system. How did she pass to the next grade? So that was another experience with the public school system. And the next thing I would consider is that even though, so say pretend you live in a good neighborhood and you're next to a good school. Usually, I'm from Florida and I went to public school. Usually they zone you based on your or where you live, and then you go to the school next to that area. But here they have a lottery system. So you could live in one side of the town, but then because of the lottery system, you may have to travel all the way to the opposite side of town to drop your kid off for school. And so a lot of the well-off people here combat this situation by just going to private school. And I would consider your budget, because private school, even if your preschool is around $30,000 a year. So if you think about it, San Francisco is one of the most expensive places to live. And you don't really get any school for your kid for free. Your taxes don't go towards that. I mean, they do, but it doesn't help the school or help your kid. So you end up having to pay the property tax for the school, which you're not going to use because it's not good, and then you put your kid in private school. So that's huge, especially I know for families, especially for what I'm considering for my daughter, who isn't born yet. So we're just thinking about, where shall we live, where school is not terrible. Okay. The second thing is transportation. The transportation here is very poor. I used to work at a daycare. I didn't own a car, and I still don't own a car. And getting to work, I was a lot of the times late. So if you are using public transportation to go get around the city, it's unreliable. So you basically want to go an hour and a half before you need to be there, just in case it doesn't work out. So that's another reason why San Francisco kind of sucks. And because of that reason, that the transportation system is not efficient, quick or reliable, you have to use private service, which is like Uber or Lyft. And there's nothing wrong with Uber or Lyft if you have the budget for it. So depending on the surge rating, it's never a flat fee. You have to pay whatever the set fee is at that time. So say pretend you're going to some place trying to get home after work, which is like rush hour, 5 to 6, 4:30 to 6. You can pay up to $40 just trying to get home because they will get price gouge you because they know everybody is requesting a ride at that time. So that's also a negative. The third one is that San Francisco is poorly ran. What I mean by that is you can live in the most beautiful neighborhood and there'll be a bunch of trash in front of your house. No one really cares to clean it up. No one cares to keep your place nice. Obviously it's up to you, but people will just throw trash. It'll be dirty. People poop like publicly on the floor. And the insult to injury is that when your storefront or your house is dirty or has graffiti on it, they will fine you. Okay, so you will get a fine, you will get a penalty because you didn't clean it up. And even though it wasn't even your fault, right? So they should be monitoring that and help you with that, but they don't. So okay, and that may be the same in other places, but here the fine is pretty hefty. And also, the other reason why SF is San Francisco is poorly ran is that there's always homeless people and drug addicts everywhere. So consider this when you bring your kids to this city, because you will have to walk past those people. And it's not a good sight for your children to sit there, especially if you're walking to school or you're walking to the grocery store, to watch someone use drugs, or two people fighting. I've seen a lot of homeless people fighting, or someone like pooping in front of your child. So be careful of that. And they also will walk up to you and with this is just one of my friends. She was walking down Market Street, and someone just one of the they have mental issues, obviously, so you can't talk sense into them. Just threw a cup of coffee on her randomly. So that is something that you also need to be aware of, especially walking around with your family. You have to always have this defense aura around you so they don't mess with you. Okay. And and the next one, number 4, cost of living. This one I don't have to explain too much. I think San Francisco is one of the most expensive places to live. You will pay extra just for normal day-to-day things. And just to give you a reference, lunch, if you want to go to lunch and you want to have a sandwich, like a simple sandwich, it could range from $15 to $20 just for one sandwich. Okay, so keep that in mind. And so I think probably if you want to live in San Francisco, you have to be balling out of control. And this is for people who want to live in San Francisco and want to have kids or currently have kids. You got to be balling out of control. Asterisk, I will say, even though you're balling out of control, that does not protect you from the homeless people, the drug addicts, the robberies. I think the CEO of Prologis got robbed in his beautiful Pac Heights area in front of his house. So if he is not immune to it and you're just a normal Joe, you probably won't be immune to it. You may have to encounter some of those things. In addition, there is always car burglaries, meaning they bash your windows in, take what they need, and they're outie. And they also don't get punished for it. So just know that that's just a part of life, and you have to get used to it and accept it if you want to live here with your family. Okay, and then the 5th one is housing and space. So we live in an apartment, and it's just one floor. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. We don't have a front yard. Um, we don't have a backyard. So if you're thinking to give your kiddo a playscape, you probably can't do that. And our backyard is kind of shared. So we just have enough space for maybe just sitting down and eating, and that's about it. So if you're looking for a lot of spaciousness, you can get it, but you have to pay a very expensive price. Yeah, so think about that. And then this is the last con that I have for families, those of you who are considering to move here with kids or planning to have kids, is there isn't much family friendly things. So, not much family friendly activities. Um, the restaurants are not family friendly. Even if you come out here to visit and check it all out, if you go to a restaurant, just take an observation and see how many kids do you actually see, how many families do you actually see, and most likely it's probably none. So, and the population of kids is pretty low here. And I will say we also have a lot of festivals and events. And if you're okay with it, the events are sometimes like they have the Folsom Street Fair, which is like the leather and like a lot of LGBTQ people come, and sometimes they're like naked, and then sometimes they have their privacy hanging out. If you're okay with that, great. But if you're not, I wouldn't recommend you coming here. And also they have another event called Beta Breakers, and the same thing is it's kind of like a street party, but really it's a 10K, 5K type of run. But sometimes people just, they're just naked, and, you never know what the background of them is, but they're just naked and they're walking around. So if you want to bring your kids to those events, or even sometimes you can't even avoid it. You can't avoid it. Even some of the homeless people walk around naked. So just that's and you don't get in trouble for it. So they're allowed to do that here. So if you're okay with it, great. This is a great place for you. But if you're not, it's not a very family friendly event, at least not for me. Okay, and so I'll just move to some of the positives here. The positives is the weather. You can't get any better than this. I'm from Florida. I hate the heat. Maybe you have the heat maybe 3 times, 3 days of the year where it's super hot, or maybe even like 5 days, maybe even 7 days of the week where it's super hot and you need air conditioning, right? But and then also San Francisco homes do not have air conditioning just because it's always so cool. So you may suffer for those couple days, but the weather is pretty like even keel. You'll know what to expect. Always pack a jacket. The next thing is there's a bunch of bars and restaurants, which are really fun. This is more of for like the people, if you have a babysitter, you can also go out to these really nice restaurants. There's a lot of Michelin star rated restaurants, which are nice. And a bunch of bars, tons of bars. And the next positive thing is there's a lot of beautiful scenic things to look at. So Chrissy Fields is beautiful. You can go for a walk there. Embarcadero is beautiful. You can go for a walk there. You see the Golden Gate Bridge. You see the Bay Bridge. You can go up the hills, the city hills, and see beautiful views. There's a bunch of hiking nearby, so you can go on hikes. So those are good things. Yeah, and it's just very scenic, and the food is great. So those are the positives. But yeah, if you have any questions about moving your family to San Francisco, feel free to reach out to me. I've lived here since 2014. So I'm really bad at math. So 2022 minus 14. So that's like uh, you know, a lot of years. So I know what I'm talking about. Please reach out to me. But yeah, these are one of the things, or some of the things I would consider if you're trying to move out here for a job. And most of the majority of the people here, you probably have to do a dual income. So both people need to work to make things happen here. Yeah. All right. That's it.